Welcome to the Faith Focused Free Thinking Podcast, a ministry of Ozaki Congregational Church in Grafton, Wisconsin. This is our 31st episode, and we're glad you're with us. Hello, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Danny.
Welcome to the Faith Focused Free Thinking Podcast. Thanks for being with us today. We've got an interesting topic for you, I guess. Really, I think I was the one who suggested it, but I don't really know what I'm talking about related to this. I mean, we're talking about cosmology and quantum mechanics, and I don't even know what these words mean necessarily, but Danny is the science guy, and so we're going to learn from him. But we're talking about sort of the origins of the universe and what evidence do we have for all of that, and what are the theories, and what can we know sort of for certain, and what do we not know, but we sort of theorize. So is that a sort of a blanket to what we're going to talk about?
Yeah, science in the Bible.
Science in the Bible. Okay, it's good.
So if you listened to the first episode of the podcast that I was on when Jeff interviewed me, I talked about my science background.
Yes.
So when I was the normal age, I went to Bob Jones University, a very conservative evangelical Christian college. And I got a degree in pre-medicine. I was planning on becoming a doctor. Pre-medicine is basically a biology major with a chemistry minor. Graduated with it, decided I did not want to be a doctor, and then I taught science at a Christian school for about 4 years, middle school and high school. When I was older, went back to school for music. Haven't done anything science related in over 20 years. Recently, spent 8 weeks as a long-term sub teaching science in a Christian school. So it was kind of fun, came full circle. But it feels like a past life, when I was teaching science, this was all from a creationist viewpoint. So I was all into all the creationist arguments and things. And so my science education was from that aspect. So it's interesting to now that I have deconstructed as a Christian, to look at some of these things from the other perspective.
Interesting. Yep. And looking at them now from the other perspective, or just sort of being open to whatever is out there, whatever is the evidence or the arguments, let's consider it all. You know what I mean? And you could say science or obviously you taught science from a creationism perspective. It's not that they are opposed to one another, right? Like, all that we know and understand about the universe could fit into, hey, God created the world. Now, what does that look like?
Sure.
Right? I mean,
well, I think that the thing that most creationists are literalists. They are apologists. They believe that the Bible is 100% God's word, inspired, and we need to take it literally. And we've covered this on a previous episode. So they approach what the Bible has to say about creation from a literal perspective.
Yes. Now, but we could qualify that and say, like, I would consider myself a creationist, or unless we're using that word to refer to a category of people or something. That is, I would say, I believe God created the world.
Sure.
You know what I mean? But what that looks like, or how all the cosmological arguments we're going to talk about or whatever fit into that, well, it would be different than what you're talking about by people who are creationists.
Sure, yes. You're right. We should define our terms. So when I say creationist, usually what I'm talking about is a 6-day young Earth creationist. They believe the Earth was created in 6 literal 24-hour periods about 6,000 years ago.
Yes. Okay. So again, when you use the word creationist, that's what we're talking about. Not just someone who believes that God exists and God created the world, but specifically
Yes.
according to this 6-day formula.
I will
Yeah.
try and remember to use young Earth creationist.
There you go. Okay.
But if I say creationist, that's probably what I'm talking
That's
about.
good. Okay. Okay.
Okay, so we'll go back to the beginning.
How did the universe begin?
How did the universe begin? There are several theories. The generally accepted one in the scientific community is popularly known as the Big Bang Theory. I'm sure everyone has heard that phrase. So exactly what is the Big Bang? And it is important to realize that we're not talking about an explosion.
Right. I did look some of this up yeah.
So we can only go so far back in time before everything starts breaking down. Like as we peer through our telescopes, as we do the math and look at the theories, we can only get back so far when time starts getting wibbly wobbly. What's the Doctor Who word for it? Timey-wimey? I don't remember.
Oh.
But basically, we have found that at a point about 13.8 billion years ago, the entire universe existed in a space smaller than a single atom. Compressed matter in an extremely tiny space. And within an extremely tiny amount of time, we're talking a millionth of a millionth of a millionth of a millionth of a second, something along those lines, that matter expanded to millions, billions of light years across. And all of this happened extremely rapidly, which is why it's generally called the Big Bang. But like I said, it is not an explosion. It's simply matter that was compressed that then becomes spread out.
So are you like in the evidence we have for that, like how we get to that, as you say, it existed in this really condensed state, right? That then expanded. Like we derive that from the universe today, currently, we believe is expanding or is still expanding, and sort of kind of taking the math back, it puts us back at this singularity.
Yes, and there's two main pieces of evidence that we use to come up with this, and one is the expansion of the universe, and we can tell that the universe is expanding because of something called redshift and Doppler shift. So I'm going to try and not make this too technical.
Yeah.
But Doppler shift is experienced almost every day when you hear an ambulance off in the distance,
Yeah.
coming towards you, and you hear the pitch change. So sound is a wave, and as the object that is creating the sound gets closer to you, the wavelengths get shorter. And so the pitch goes higher.
Sure. Okay.
And as an object that is making noise goes away from you, the waves get longer, and therefore the pitch goes down. Now, if this were a visual medium, I could demonstrate this better.
Right. Right.
But if you just Google the Doppler effect.
That makes sense, though.
can-
That makes sense. I think people will understand that. Yep.
So we experience the same thing with light, because light is a wave. Now, if you want to get technical, light is a wave and a particle at the same time.
Okay.
It is a concept that we don't fully understand. But we can observe behavior of light based on its wave characteristics. So a galaxy that is traveling away from our galaxy is going to experience what we call a red shift. And it's that those wavelengths are getting longer because the galaxy is moving away from us, similar to an object that's making sound moving away from you.
And I'll just take your word for it, but that red shift in a galaxy, right? The light coming from that galaxy to us. I mean, this is something we can measure.
Yes.
Yeah.
The reason it's called a red shift is because it's a shift in the spectrum of visible light. And it shifts towards the red. As opposed to a blue shift, which would be an object moving towards us. So, for example, the Andromeda galaxy, which is the closest galaxy to ours,
Yes.
is moving towards us. And so it experiences a blue shift.
Ah.
And we're talking about the color of the visible light spectrum, red on one end, blue on the other.
Yes. Interesting. Okay. And so, and this is, I mean, even though the Andromeda galaxy is moving towards us, this red shift, like suggesting that light is, the wavelengths are becoming further apart, longer, right? That is, it's moving away from us. This is uniform in like all the stars, the lights that we look at, as we look at the universe around us, like the universe is expanding outward in every direction. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yes, there are the obvious exception of Andromeda galaxy that is moving towards us, but other than that, mostly everything else is just expanding outwards.
Again, which leads us to conclude that, well, at some point it was all together in this singularity. But you're saying that this sort of millionth of a second, that this matter expanded to the size it is currently?
No, because it has been expanding for 13.8 billion years. I forget the exact amount or size. The initial expansion in that infinitesimally small time period is quite vast. I don't remember exactly how many billions of light years across the universe was at that point, but certainly not as large as it is today. And in fact, what we have observed is that the universe today is about 90 billion light years across. And that is one of the things that young Earth creationists like to point at and say, oh, you see here, how can the Earth be only 13.8 billion years old if it's 90 billion light years across? So the light that is coming from the other end of the universe hasn't been traveling for 90 billion years, right?
Sure.
It's only been traveling for 13.8 billion years.
Right.
And that's because of the expansion. So this is where it gets a little tricky. So imagine that you and I are galaxies at this moment of the Big Bang. Actually, well, there weren't galaxies at the moment of the Big Bang.
Right. Sure.
It's a billion years later. But when the moment that those galaxies are formed, they are not 90 billion light years from each other.
Sure. Okay.
They're probably 10 billion light years, 13, the maximum 13.8. So the light that is coming from one galaxy to the other has been traveling towards us for 13.8 billion years, but the galaxy itself has been moving farther away for 13.8 billion years.
Yes, sure. Okay. Yep.
Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. And I have heard it said that the universe is expanding as we said. But not only is it expanding, but it's accelerating in its expansion.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
And that is one of the things that physics hasn't yet been able to understand or explain. We thought that the expansion would slow down due to gravity, but no, it is actually increasing its acceleration of expansion. And so some people think that it will expand infinitely. Some people think that at a certain point the expansion will slow down and perhaps even contract. And some people think that eventually at the end everything will go back to one point.
A singular. So, and I've heard the other question being, okay, so the universe is expanding into what? Like, if the universe is all that exists, right? Space itself, kind of thing. Well, I mean, what's outside of where the universe is expanding?
Nothing.
I mean, we really can't get our minds around it. I've heard one explanation of it. Just think of it as a balloon that's being, you're putting air into, right? It's expanding in, just within the confines of that. There's nothing beyond that.
Yeah, I don't think that the human brain has the capability of comprehending some of these things. And scientists and physicists are trying to go even farther back, and they actually have gone a little bit prior to the Big Bang.
Oh.
Not to blow your mind.
Okay.
There's this concept called inflation, and we don't have to get into it. But the idea that there was nothing before the Big Bang, time didn't exist, matter didn't exist, space didn't exist, and the concept that there is nothing outside of the universe is all that exists, is a concept that the human brain can't really comprehend.
Sure. Yes. Well, I've heard the question like how the universe began, and hear this theory of the Big Bang, and whatever. That's a matter of science, right? But once you get, well, why does it exist? Well, now you're into metaphysics. Now you're into philosophy. Like, we don't know, right? I suppose, the short answer.
This is true.
Yeah.
There is one other aspect to the evidence that we have for the Big Bang.
Yeah.
And that is cosmic microwave background radiation.
Yes.
CMB.
I hear that term. Explain to us what that is.
So in that fraction of a second when the expansion happened, we have all matter of the universe in an extremely small space. It is extremely hot. It is too hot for elements to form, atoms to form, anything to form, really. It's just a hot soup. As the universe expands, it starts to cool. Up to a certain point, the universe is opaque because it's this hot soup. You can't see through it.
Okay.
As the universe expands and begins to cool, quarks, which are subatomic particles, begin forming other subatomic particles. We end up getting protons, neutrons, and the first element forms, which is hydrogen, which is the smallest element that there is. It consists of one proton and one electron. No neutrons, just one proton, one electron. Because of its size, it is the first element that can form as the universe is cooling. As these hydrogen atoms form, the universe becomes transparent and becomes what we think of when we think of space. You can see through it. But this cosmic microwave background radiation is kind of the leftover radiation from this process. And so microwaves are a part of the electromagnetic spectrum. We have gamma rays, X-rays, microwaves, infrared, visible light. And obviously, we as humans can only detect visible light. You can use specialized equipment to see infrared and so forth.
Right.
And so what there is throughout the entire universe, there is this background radiation that is in the form of microwaves. And we can take a telescope and equip it to see microwaves, and then we can see a picture of the universe as far back as we can go. They're almost 13.8 billion years. And that background radiation was predicted as what would be the result of this Big Bang expansion. The leftover energy after all this happened it's throughout the entire universe.
Interesting. Okay, so again, all of this, it's left over from this initial expansion, whatever. So explain to us the difference between that cosmic background micro radiation, whatever, and like what is dark energy and dark matter? And I know the answer is we don't know, but somehow it has to be there. But these are not the same thing.
No, they are not. Dark matter it's not something that's been proven. It's a hypothetical, invisible substance that doesn't emit, absorb, or reflect light.
But it's a necessary element or part of the Einstein's theory of relativity. I mean,
yes.
Our understanding of gravity, that is, gravity is not this force that keeps things together, but it's the bending of space and time. So all this space that we can now see through, right? It's not nothing. It's dark matter, right? That is keeping the things together.
You could describe it as a scaffolding that holds the universe together. But again, it hasn't been proven.
Right.
We can see its existence based on the gravitational pull that it exerts on visible matter. So it's kind of like we know something is there, but we haven't been able to prove it. And you could say that's God.
Yes, sure. Same thing. Yes. Good. We're taking some of these things on faith. But you're saying the cosmic microwave background radiation is something that we can observe, we can see.
It's energy.
And that it exists all between the Earth and the Sun.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And its wavelengths.
It is.
It's not light.
Well, it's what we call electromagnetic radiation. When you say the word light, we're so programmed to think of visible light.
Right.
But there is more to light than just visible light.
Sure.
So it's collectively referred to as electromagnetic radiation, and it exists in a broad spectrum from very tiny wavelengths that are gamma rays.
Okay.
Then we get, I'm not going to be able to remember the order, but we have ultraviolet, infrared, microwaves, visible light. And they're just different wavelengths of the same thing. And our eyes receive the information of visible light and turn that into a picture that our brain can interpret.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Whereas other organisms can see slightly different range of wavelengths than human eyes.
Okay. So, but between us and the sun, for example, there is this microwave leftover radiation. And also there is, we theorize, something called dark matter that we don't know is there, but seems to have to be there
because in order for our that we see on it.
Yes. Before. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. And I mean, I read that 5% of the universe is sort of ordinary matter, Earth, sun, the planets, whatever. And then you've got all this space in between galaxies and planets or whatever. So 95% of the universe is this dark matter, dark energy that we don't know is there, can't prove it, but we just see its effect. It has to be there, i.e., maybe this is God, right? Yeah,
Sure.
or the same idea. Yep. Okay, where do you want to go from here?
Maybe we should, I don't know, if we do want to talk about the limitations of science to being able to describe what happened before and what happens outside of the universe, and how this is something that we take as faith.
Yes. No, I think that's a good thing to hit on, right? Like, again, we don't know what happened before the Big Bang. We don't know how this singularity got there in the first place, right? We don't know the answer to the question, why is there something rather than nothing? We don't know what the universe is expanding into. All of these questions that are, questions of faith. And the people will philosophize, or people will make the argument, okay, in order for the universe to exist, it must have been caused by something. I mean, of course, people will theorize, well, maybe the universe is eternal. Maybe the universe is itself eternal, right? But, if all matter existed within this singularity before the Big Bang, well, what happened before that? It must have been caused by something. And that's something we call God, right? And God must be then immaterial and must be spaceless and timeless, in order to create space and time and matter. And I mean, that makes sense to me. And in order for anything to exist, something has to have within itself the power of existence. This is just me saying, like, that what just makes sense to me, you know what I mean? And that thing we call God, right? Now, I think where we have gotten into trouble as people of faith, or as the church, is in claiming that we know how the universe began, that God created the universe, and right, rather than saying, look, this is a question of faith, and we trust, we believe, that God created the world, that God is that first cause, and that not only that, but that God is involved in the world, and say that that's a matter of faith rather than we know. And I think we got to guard against, certainty. Of course, as we've said in other episodes.
I see a lot of arguments between atheists and theists, or whether it's young Earth creationists or what. But the person that argues for the existence of God tends to point at the atheist and say, okay, what was there before the Big Bang theory?
Right.
Like, or before the Big Bang. Like, you can't get something out of nothing, right?
Right.
But that's not being intellectually honest, because both sides have to come to the basic same conclusion. Like, they could say, okay, what happened before God? Like, how can God exist infinitely?
Right.
And it goes back to there's going to be some aspect of this that our brains can't comprehend.
Right. Sure.
There are things greater in the world than we are capable of understanding.
Yep. And all of this, again, we talked about this at church a couple Sundays ago, just the idea that, I mean, all of us are exercising faith in some way, and all of us are just doing our best to make sense out of the universe and our experience and our existence, and to find meaning and hope in it. And the idea that God created the world, and that gives a sense of order and meaning and purpose is a good thing, without demonizing people who see it differently. At the same time, for the atheist who says, well, I don't believe the evidence points to a God, but I believe that the universe is worth discovering, and us figuring all this out, knowing what we can know, and pursuing our own survival and our own flourishing, that this is a good thing. There's an exercise of faith there. So.
All right. So then we move forward in time to about 4.6 billion years ago.
Yes.
The formation of the Earth. Okay, so I'd like to go through some of the 6-day creationist stuff. There are different ideas amongst even creationists about how to resolve the issue of a young Earth versus an old Earth. So again, we said generally the young Earth creationists are 6-day literal 24-hour periods. And so it comes from this idea that we have to take the Bible literally, and the Bible says on day 1 God created this, day 2 God created this.
Yeah.
Right. So, but here's some of the alternative ones. The first is, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was without form and void. Now, I think I just quoted King James because that's what I remember from way back when. So it says God created the heaven and the earth, and then the earth was without form and void.
Right.
So there's something that's going on in there, right? So some creationists believe that there was an original creation that God then destroyed, and the earth became without form and void. Okay. All right, here's the next one. In Psalm, I don't remember which one, it says, a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is as a day.
Yeah.
So that they say that these 6 days are not 6 literal 24-hour periods, but they're longer, broader ages that, can give us more time.
Sure.
One of the problems with that is the creation of plants before the creation of the sun. It says there was light, but
Again, in the order of things in the first chapter of Genesis. Yeah.
yes. So yeah, there's a couple of ideas within creationism that are not literal 6-day periods, but the majority of creationists, as we said, believe in a literal 6-day creation that happened 6,000 years ago, and we know because we take the genealogies that are listed and we can add up the years, and we get Archbishop Usher from I don't remember when. See, he put creation at 4004 BC.
Oh, is that right?
He gave a specific year. So
That's interesting. That's interesting. Yeah.
to me, these young Earth creationists are violating one of the most basic principles of science. So scientists are supposed to go in with a hypothesis. This is what we think is going to happen, but with an open mind, saying wherever the data takes me is where I'm going to go. But you can't do that as a literal 6-day creationist. So they are going in saying, we know that the earth was created in 6 days because the Bible tells us that, and we know it was only 6,000 years ago. So we're going to approach this from that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, for sure. There's people that do that. Now, I mean, you would get sort of on the opposite side of the spectrum, perhaps, or whatever. You would get some scientists or atheists that are going to start with there is no God, and so we're going to explain it some other way than to you know what I mean? And no, but I think you're right. We want to be open to, where the data leads. You know what I mean? Who was it that I'd have to look this up? But some guy said, how did the universe begin? It was spontaneous generation giving rise to evolution. It was that phrase was part of it. And he said, but spontaneous generation was disproved by Louis Pasteur and others or whatever. He said, but I can't accept that because that only leaves one alternative. that the universe was created by supernatural acts of God, and I don't want to believe in God, So, I mean, yeah, wherever you are, you take your perspective, and we have to resist the temptation to say, I'm unwilling to consider this or that, you know what I mean? But let me ask you this, like, in theory, is sort of a 6-day creationism or a young earth creationism, I suppose you'd say it's philosophically plausible, right? Meaning, like, God could have created the universe with the appearance of age. Would be the argument.
Sure.
So we could study it, and it appears as though the universe is 13 point whatever billion years old. But that's just because God created it that way within. I mean, you're taking it seems to me, sort of taking a big leap of faith to do that. But, like, in theory, is it?
That is one of the arguments that they have. God created Adam and Eve as fully formed adults.
Yeah.
Even though they were only hours old, they appeared to be adult human beings. And so young earth creationists will say, yeah, it's not a problem that we can see light coming from billions of light years away. It was already there when God created the world. It was on its way, So, yeah, that is definitely a philosophical possibility. However, the overwhelming evidence that we see on the Earth is that of natural evolution and not single day creation of all of these animals.
Yeah. Sure.
So let's look at some of that. So the first thing is the concept of geologic ages. Right. So as we go down in rock layers, we are seeing the past.
Yeah. Okay.
Right. And the typical creationist argument is that this was all formed as a result of the flood, the Great Flood. Right. So, but the fossil record doesn't speak to a mass event creating the entire fossil record. We have distinct layers with distinct organisms in them. Like, if you go down far enough, you're only going to find primitive organisms. You're not going to find dinosaurs mixed in with trilobites.
What are trilobites?
They're the if you search fossil, you're probably going to come up with a picture of a trilobite.
Okay.
It looks kind of like a crab, like a horseshoe shape.
Okay.
They're one of the most abundant fossils that we have are trilobites.
Oh, okay.
Organisms that don't exist any longer. If the fossil record was created in a very short period of time by a massive global event like a flood, we would expect to see layers with all different kinds of organisms. We would see complex organisms with simple organisms, and we don't see that. Instead, what we see are layers with specific levels of complexity, and then another layer with greater complexity and greater complexity. So creationists will ignore the majority of the fossil record, and they will cherry pick specific data points that could seem to point to some things. The most common one you'll hear is that there are marine fossils on the top of Mount Everest.
Oh, okay.
Right. So that
I've not heard that. Okay, but that's good.
There are marine fossils on top of Mount Everest, and in their minds, that is proof that Mount Everest was once underwater in a massive flood. Right?
Yeah.
But what it ignores is the fact that due to the tectonic plate activity, the continents have been moving continuously, and Mount Everest was not always that high. It's uplift. And the over millions of years, what used to be the ocean floor gradually rose and became a mountain peak.
Interesting. Yeah. My two questions, related to that are, one, what I hear within sort of evolution or whatever, a problem with evolution is not the development and changes within species, but the development of new species. And that, okay, we can see in the fossil record changes within a dog adapts to its environment or whatever, but it's still a dog, right? But for a new species to emerge out of we generally don't see that. And so then people will say, well, okay, how did not just adaptations within species evolve, but how did new species evolve? Is that sort of an argument, maybe a creationist argument, or a problem or an issue within evolution?
So if you're a creationist, it is.
Yeah.
So they'll point to things like the laws of thermodynamics, that everything is getting worse, entropy. Like one of Newton's three laws is that order is becoming less ordered. We're going from order to chaos. We don't see the universe going from chaos to order.
Oh, okay.
Right. And then they'll also say that, DNA mutations are almost always harmful. Like, that's the general accepted process of evolutionary change is through genetic mutations.
Okay.
Mutations to DNA that will give a survival advantage to an organism. So we have this organism going along for millions of years, and then a genetic mutation happens that gives this organism better hearing than the other of its kind. And because of its advantage, that organism is more likely to pass its genes on to the next generation. And so then you go generations and generations, and then we see this trait being expressed amongst every individual of the species. And the creationists will argue that there is irreducible complexity in structures such as an eye, that you can't evolve part of an eye and it be a benefit to the organism, and then you evolve another part of the eye later, and these minor mutations are not going to provide a benefit to the organism until the eye is fully complete. So it's not going to pass that on to its offspring. And there is back and forth between both sides, and ultimately, I don't know what I believe, honestly, when it comes to it. Like, I used to be a diehard six-day creationist, and so some of those arguments are still in my head. Like, you can't, this irreducible complexity. And I think that I resolve it with why can't God use evolution and direct its path?
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, in all of this, again, we're going to trust something greater than ourselves. So I'm good with that. But my other question was, or observation maybe, is right the layers you talk about. You go down the rock layers and the different eras and geological eras or whatever. And I mean, and yet compared to the diameter of the Earth, the amount that we have drilled down is very, very small.
Sure.
Right? So each one of these eras, I mean, if the Earth has been around for 4.5 billion years or whatever, how deep is, like, if we go down 100 feet, that represents how many years? Or do you know that? I guess we'd have to look at
I mean, it's different in every area, but often you're talking about, like, an inch could be several thousand years.
Oh.
Like, it's not, I mean, there are examples of rapid and massive layers occurring. For example, Mount St. Helens in Oregon. You can go there today and you can see several feet of rock layer that formed in a day.
Oh,
I mean, didn't solidify, but like the actions of a day caused several feet. But then again, there's plenty of places where the layers are extremely thin and they correspond to thousands and thousands of years.
interesting. Yeah. I also find it interesting too. I mean, these are sort of just random thoughts or whatever. But you've got some trees, I think even in America, right, that are thousands of years old, that have been around for forever. I don't know why somehow that reminded me of that, but yeah.
Well, that's one of the interesting things that one of the arguments that six-day creationists will point to are the existence of polystrate fossils. Speaking of trees,
Which are what? Yeah.
those are fossils that go vertical through layers.
Oh,
So generally, most of our fossils are horizontal and exist in a layer, right? But we do have some examples of polystrate, mini, straight strata, the layers of rock.
okay.
That trees that have gone, or that are vertical through different layers, right? And so the creationists will point to that and say, see, it couldn't be, thousands and thousands of years. The top of the tree would have died a long time ago. You'd only have the bottom part. And the answer to that is that concept of there are occasions when layers can be put down really quickly. Like Mount St.
Sure.
Helens.
Right.
There are also, we have done radiometric dating, and the layers from the bottom of the polystrate fossil are the same age as the layers at the top. Which we should probably talk about radiometric dating.
Tell us. I am not familiar with that. Yes.
So we use radiometric dating to get ages for things before recorded history. There are several different types. If you're dating rocks, you do what's known as potassium-argon dating.
Okay.
And basically the concept is that certain radioactive elements will decay. And they are unstable, and so I don't remember the exact atomic number, but there is a radioactive version of potassium that will decay until it is no longer potassium, it is argon.
Okay.
And it has a half-life, as all radioactive elements do. Meaning, if you have a certain amount of radioactive potassium in a sample, and the half-life, after so many years, there will be half of that left.
Okay.
And then whatever that half-life is, at another so many years, there'll be half of that left.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so I can give you carbon-14 because it's about 5,000 years. So carbon-14 is a radioactive version of carbon, and it has a half-life of about 5,000 years. So if we can measure the amount of carbon-14 that is in an object, we can extrapolate backwards to see how old was it when it died, or how long ago it was.
Okay.
Based on the decay of carbon-14.
Okay.
And to do this, you have to know the decay rate, and then you have to have an idea of how much carbon-14 would have been in the organism when it died.
Sure.
So for carbon-14 is used for organic materials. It's used for living things.
Okay.
There is carbon-14 in our atmosphere. There's carbon-14 in the ground. And as a living thing, we have carbon-14 inside of us. Okay? So we find a fossilized bone. We can measure the amount of carbon-14 in it. And based on the decay rate, we can figure out how far back it was.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah.
So these radiometric dating methods are used to determine the ages of things before we had recorded human history.
Okay.
Okay, so here's the argument.
Yeah.
The creationist argument. Carbon-14 dating is invalid because you are assuming that the rate of carbon-14 in the atmosphere has been the same consistently throughout time. Which would be true, except we have other independent ways of measuring carbon-14. So one of those ways is tree rings.
Oh.
So tree rings are added every year, and depending on the environmental conditions, those rings can be bigger or smaller. Rough year, smaller ring. Good, easy year, bigger ring. So we can take wood that is they've taken wood from Europe. They can, if you're getting the wood from the same area, then all of the trees in that area will have the same rings system, same size rings. They can take a piece of wood with an older piece of wood and they overlap, and you can see where the rings line up. Does that make sense?
I think so.
So
okay.
Tree A and tree B overlap a little bit. So the tree A was planted near the end of tree B's life.
Okay.
So they share some rings that correspond to a time period.
Okay.
And then we can take and continuously go back in time by finding another piece of wood that lines up with this other tree, another piece of wood that lines up. And they have been able to do this back 50,000 years.
Oh.
With tree rings. And they can measure the amount of carbon-14 in those tree rings and see that it hasn't necessarily been consistent, but we have a record of the levels of carbon-14, and we can then use it to safely or accurately measure things. The other way is ice cores.
Okay.
So we go to the poles and they drill down in the ice, and you can see summer, winter, summer, winter.
Oh, sure.
A period of freeze, a period of partial thaw, another period of freeze. And they can go back 50,000 years in the ice cores or more. I don't know exactly how much.
Okay.
And then the third way is by coral reefs.
Oh, okay.
They experience a cyclical growth period that corresponds to years, and we can look at coral fossils and, similar to the trees, go back that far.
Interesting. Yeah. No, that's amazing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I could have told you carbon-14 dating, like I'd heard that phrase, but what it means, or any of those other.
Sure. So the criticism you'll commonly hear is they use this potassium argon dating for rocks, because rocks are inorganic, so they don't have carbon-14, right? Mm-hmm. And they have, done this radiometric dating on rock samples from known volcanoes, like say a volcano in the 1940s. So they know the age of those rocks, right? Oh. And they do this radiometric dating, and it comes back a couple thousand years old, right? And so it's like, oh, see, it's inaccurate. We know this rock was formed 70 years ago, and its dating system says several thousand years. And so the response to that is on the interstates, the pull-offs that semis have to do, the weigh stations.
Yes.
So they have these massive scales that weigh semi trucks.
Yes.
Using these radiometric dating systems to date a rock that's 70 years old is the equivalent of using those semi scales to weigh a feather.
Oh, sure. Okay.
You can't get the precision when you're dealing with something that's 70 years old.
Yeah. No, interesting.
All right, here's the other, the big one that creationists will like to point to prove that the Earth is only 6,000 years old. The claim that dinosaurs and humans existed at the same time.
Ah.
All right, so
the creationists will make that argument. Okay.
Noah took them on the ark.
Oh, interesting.
He probably took baby dinosaurs. Right?
Okay.
But yes, 6-day creationists believe that God created dinosaurs on day 6 with all the other animals, and
Interesting.
they existed at the same time as Adam and have subsequently died out since then. And there is a river in Texas called the Paluxy River where we have a bunch of dinosaur footprints. It's a really cool site.
Oh.
A lot of fossilized dinosaur footprints. There's about 4 different species of dinosaurs with footprints in that area.
Okay. Let me ask this before you...
Sure.
Like, I mean, I'm taking your word for it, and we're taking whoever's word for it, right? Like how certain are we that... No, this is not just the dirt is formed in this way or the rock is formed in this way, but this is... How certain are we that, no, this is the footprint of a dinosaur? You see what I'm saying?
I mean, it's in solid rock.
Okay. I mean, this is not like well, I've heard it said with archaeology, right? Or our uncovering of ancient civilizations or cities or whatever. Like there's just a measure of interpretation in archaeology, right? Oh, this pot must have come from, you know what I mean?
Sure.
But these, dinosaur footprints along with human, like we're fairly confident as best as we... or is there
no
a
one
level?
is arguing that the dinosaur footprints are not dinosaur footprints. Even the young Earth creationists are saying, yes, these are dinosaur footprints.
Okay.
I don't know when they were discovered, but if you look at the pictures, it's pretty clear.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So 4 or 5 different species of dinosaurs with footprints in the area. One of them in particular has got a footprint that's about 1.5 feet, maybe 2 feet long.
Okay.
It's got 3 pointed toes in the front, and then the back of it is similar shape to like a human heel. So if you can picture that, 1.5 feet, 2 foot print, 3 pointed claws in the front, and then it goes to it's wider in the front and then narrower at the heel. All right, so the young Earth creationists claim that there are human footprints there as well. What's interesting is that they only have about 4 or 5 that they claim are human footprints, and they all exist inside of this one specific dinosaur's footprint.
Oh.
So you would imagine the size of that foot. This animal has a gait of 5 feet, 6 feet between footsteps, right?
Oh, yeah.
The human footprints are only inside the dinosaur footprints.
Oh.
So this human was very careful to step exactly in the dinosaur's footprints and nowhere else.
Okay.
And when you look at the photographs, the only way it looks like a human print inside the dinosaur print is if you draw an outline of toes and like show you where the human footprint is supposed to be. It's very flimsy.
Okay.
And we don't have any other examples of dinosaur footprints mixed in with more recent animals. There's not any like dinosaurs and giraffes or dinosaurs and elephants. It's just dinosaurs and humans, which is an example of pareidolia.
Okay.
Pareidolia is the tendency for us to see human features in inanimate objects or nature. Like we look at a cloud, I think, oh, that looks like my uncle.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
So
pareidolia. Okay. No, that's good. Well, that's interesting. Yeah. Well, and I mean, all of this too, what it makes me think of too is I don't know. I suppose that maybe I would know a few 6-day creationists that hold to that perspective. You know what I mean? And I'm familiar with Ken Ham and Answers in Genesis and the ark that they have built, the Creation Museum and all of that. And I like, however anybody wants to make sense of things. And even if they want to hold to a literal interpretation of the scripture, or scientists want to hold to, look, I'm not considering the possibility of there being a God or whatever, that's okay. However it works, for people. I think our encouragement to ourselves and to others would be to say, let's resist the temptation to think that we've got it right and that we need to convince somebody else to see it our way. And let's be open to the discoveries we've made as humanity. Let's be open to the idea of something greater than ourselves, open to the idea of faith, right? Our need for that. And yeah, again, not feel the pressure of, we've got to get this exactly right. Even though we see the value of discovery, right? And all of this. And why don't I think this, again, it always comes back to me to, if we could just get rid of hell, the idea that there's a God who is going to punish people for not getting it right, then I think we'd find ourselves free to just appreciate the work of scientists and whatever. I think scientists would feel less I don't know if threatened is the right word, but disdain for religious people who seem to be, so dogmatic. And I think we can have faith in God, in that which is greater than ourselves, right? And also have a great faith and see the value in the discovery of the world and appreciation for people that, without feeling the pressure to convince anybody or whatever, and just finding mutual, how do we live this life, and navigate the world in positive ways for ourselves and for others. So I don't know. This is what it makes me think of.
Yeah, no, I would say that the Bible is not a science textbook.
Yes.
And it has a lot of what I would consider to be etiologies, which is simply an explanation for how something came to be the way it is. So it's kind of like dad with his kids. Here, kids, come around the fire. I'm going to tell you a story about why water falls from the sky.
Sure, right.
This etiology is almost mythology. And we're talking about people from thousands of years ago who didn't have scientific information available to them.
Yeah.
They were simple, often uneducated, and trying to understand the world around them. And these stories in Genesis are just a way of making sense to their brains.
Yeah.
And that's all it has to be. It doesn't have to be. We don't have to take it as a science textbook.
Yes.
This is not literally describing how everything came into being. And I don't feel the need to harmonize science and my faith.
Yeah.
I'm happy to leave the science to the science and faith to faith. It doesn't matter. God can use evolution. God can use the Big Bang.
Yep.
It's, so.
Yep. No. Again, at the end of the day, I think we're all wanting to discover the world and what it is and why it works the way it does. And we're all trusting in something, pursuing meaning and purpose in that which goes beyond on this world, and trusting that whatever we call God is good, and yeah. No, it's good. Good. Well, that was it. That was interesting.
Yeah.
That was
Let
helpful
us
for
know
me.
if you have any questions.
Yeah.
Obviously, people in the church, if you want to pick my brain about some more of the science stuff, I'd be willing to get a cup of coffee and talk.
Yeah. No, all this stuff is interesting. That's for sure. So, yeah, shoot us a note, and thanks for joining us. We'll see you next month.
Have a good one.